Lakes are important to us for several reasons. We play on them throughout the year. We use them as a drinking supply, and we appreciate them as an important part of the natural world around us. 4 high school students from the Mid-Coast area were concerned about water quality on a local lake. After seeing the green stuff that formed there every summer, they decided to find out what caused the problem and what could be done to prevent the same thing from happening on other lakes.
My name's Aaron Bailey, and I'm from Camden-Rockport High School.
Hi, my name is Leslie, and I am 15, and I'm going to be a junior at Rockland High School.
Hi, I'm Reggie Gracie. I'm from Mid-Coast Valley, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Jessie Peck, and I'm 14 years old. I'm going to Georges Valley High School. I'll be a sophomore this year.
What I want to be in future plans is a game warden out in the boondocks somewhere, so I can study, because I love the outdoors. I can't stand being in an office.
And I hope, by doing this video, that we can try to solve the problem or at least make a step in that direction.
And so I thought this would be a good, good way to learn hands-on and understand more about the environment and the water.
I want to do something, make this world a better place, and I'm excited that as a kid I'm doing something about it.
We all knew that Chickawaukee Lake was in trouble. In the summer, swimming there is often disgusting, with green scum all along the shore. We wondered how the lake got in that condition and how other lakes can be protected. Leslie talked to Trevor Hunt, the laboratory director at the Camden-Rockport Water Company, the local water company that uses the lake as a backup water supply. Trevor's been monitoring water quality in Chickawaukee Lake for almost 10 years. He told us that the green stuff we'd seen in Chickawaukee were microscopic plants called algae.
Chickawaukee's been a really interesting study. The levels of algae have just been really tremendous. The trend has been that the lake is really choking off with algae each year, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better.
My folks settled here, first settlers ever, right here on Chickawaukee Lake in 1765.
I talked to 2 long-term residents of the area, Jane Hollowell and Earl Toman, to find out what changes they had seen in the lake since they were kids. They said at one time the lake had been crystal clear, perfect for swimming.
Oh, I can remember when it was a water supply of sneaking in and swimming. But after that, after a while, they let us swim there. And all the children from the village came down. When we were young, there was just about 3 houses on the main Route 17 and none on the other side.
Do you have any advice for the people who live on lakes with less development at this time?
Yeah, don't let too many get in there.
At one time, Chicky, as the lake is known to people locally, was clear and a great place to swim. I talked to Barbara Welch from the Department of Environmental Protection, the state agency that monitors our lakes, to find out why the algae on Chicky was growing so quickly. She told me that algae is natural in all lakes, but in some lakes it grows at an unnaturally rapid rate.
Phosphorus is the fertilizer for algae. And if you add phosphorus, then you're fertilizing the algae. You're making it grow. You're getting a bigger crop of it, like you'd fertilize your garden, or a farmer would fertilize a hay crop. To get more production, if you fertilize a lake with phosphorus, you get more algae, which you don't usually want on a lake.
So phosphorus is what's turning our lakes green. Phosphorus comes from a number of sources, including 1. Runoff from farming, fertilizer, and manure. 2. Development, building, construction, and changes in land use. 3. Septic systems. 4. Detergents with phosphates. And 5. Poor road construction. Any phosphorus that drains into the lake has a serious impact. I asked Barbara if it's just people with houses or farms on the shore who affect the lake.
Anyone in the watershed needs to be careful. And by the watershed, I mean the people who are living in the bowl around the lake.
If you connected the high points of all the land around the lake, all the water that drains to the lake from those points is called the watershed, or the drainage area of the lake.
Why do we need to be so careful with lakes?
Lakes are fragile. They need to be actively protected if we want them to stay. We need lakes, and we need to protect them.
In Swanville, there's a big farm right on the lake. Bob Bowen raises pigs and hogs there.
A few years ago, we got worried about the lake. We got a brook that runs down here behind you. It feeds the lake. It comes out on one end of my property. There's another brook on the other side of it. So the main thing we had to do was make sure we had clean water going into the lake.
Bob has done a tremendous job of protecting the lake. He's surrounded the farm with diversion ditches and drains. He has manure storage facilities and is building a cement-lined and sealed barn. He has taken all these precautions because there are brooks on both sides of his property that drain right into the lake. But he says it's not just people who live right on the lake that need to be careful.
Not just farms, regular homeowners can create a problem because they sort of figure that's a wasted little ditch. It doesn't really do much for my land, so we'll throw stuff in it. And then rain comes, washes by, goes into a bigger brook and ends up in the lake, and then you've got pollution.
Sonny Goodwin, a developer who's been in the construction business for over 30 years, is working on a building next to the river. He told me it's important to leave as many trees as possible on the site. If the soil is disturbed, it should be covered and landscaped. On one side of the building, he uses his hay berm, made of bales of hay piled up. On the other side, he's installed this silt fence made of plastic. They do the same thing. They keep soil exposed by the project from ending up in the river. Any disturbance of the soil can cause soil erosion, and that increases the amount of phosphorus in the lake. I asked him if he thought all developers were as careful as he is in preventing soil erosion.
But there's another developer that's often overlooked, and that's the developer that is the individual homeowner. He doesn't consider himself a developer, but in fact he is, because he can have perhaps more of an impact on the erosion and the environment than a developer who is savvy to what he's expected to do.
Sonny emphasized that, for both the large developer and the individual homeowner, one person is critical to making sure they know how to do the job right.
The code enforcement officer is the one that has the real role to fill in protecting the lakes and streams.
The code enforcement officer's #1 duty is enforcing municipal ordinances and regulations. Sonny believes another important part of the job is educating everyone involved in construction. He's concerned that families who build their own homes don't always know what they are required to do.
The developer is, he is swamped with these facts continually. These things are coming to his attention. So when he gets caught, he's really wrong, really wrong.
In Rockland, my job entails a lot of different regulations.
Dave Kallick is the code enforcement officer for Rockland. His job isn't easy. He is the lake's first line of defense.
What can people do to help the situation?
I think, to me, the most important thing is to just be aware that even though you may be a mile or more from the lake, what you do on your property certainly has a big effect on the lake.
Part of the shoreline of Chickawaukee is located in Rockland, so Dave is very familiar with the problems there. One of the problems are septic systems. Many are old, poorly maintained, and are being used more than in the past. Dave told me septic systems should be up to code, properly maintained, and pumped out on a regular basis. And you should do what we did, check the label on any detergent you buy to make sure it says no phosphates.
People can really influence the quality of water in their lake. There's strength in numbers, and a local lake or watershed association can have a major impact by educating the community and taking action to protect the lake. I talked to Dick Davison, who has lived for many years on a nearby lake. He's the president of the Undercook Watershed Association. The MWA works hard to keep its membership informed through regular meetings, a newsletter, and updates on water testing results.
Could you tell me the purposes of a watershed association?
I guess the key word, Reggie, would be protection. By that I mean the preservation and protection of this fantastic water resource and the avoidance of any damage to that great God-given benefit.
Recently, the association was able to work out an agreement with a local property owner to place his property in a conservation easement, protecting it from development.
40 beautiful acres of lakeside land is now under an easement and will remain that way forever.
Dick is a representative to the Mid-Coast Water Study Commission. The commission works to inform people in the Mid-Coast area about water quality issues. The chair of the Water Study Commission is Mary McPherson from the Eastern Mid-Coast Planning Commission.
One of the really important things about working on this regional basis with towns and lake associations and the water company is that all those people come to a meeting with different priorities, with different specific things that they like to see accomplished. And what we've been able to do through the Water Study Commission is to see what things we all share, what things everyone is concerned with, and what it comes down to is everyone's concerned about protecting the lake. There may be different reasons for that concern, but we can all work together to protect them.
I asked Mary to tell me some of the problems that have been solved through regional cooperation.
There's a road on Chickawaukee Lake that was causing serious soil erosion. The water was, when there was rain, the water would cause the soil to go down and end up in the lake.
Through the combined efforts of the Chickawaukee Lake Association and a number of other people, the situation has gotten better. The road has been improved and culverts have been built that help channel the water and eroded soil away from the lake.
The Rockland golf course used to put fertilizer on their course in the part of the golf course that went down to Chickawaukee. And a representative of the Water Study Commission went and talked with the golf pro at the golf course who agreed to stop using fertilizer. So that we saw as another really positive step that we were able to influence.
We headed over to the golf course to find out more.
Peter Hodgkins, the golf pro at the Rockland Golf Club, made the decision to stop using fertilizer.
When we discovered that the lake was having a problem, we tried to cut back on anything that we were using that we felt might be detrimental to any runoff into the lake.
Fertilizer contains phosphorus and causes problems for the lake when it's used by a golf course, a farmer, or a homeowner.
Hopefully, if everybody works hard at it, we're going to come to a clean lake one day.
We still had some more questions about how we can help protect lakes, but we decided to take a break and headed for the lake for some hands-on research.
We had learned a lot about lakes' problems, but now we wanted to hear more about how we can protect our lakes in the future. Trevor Hunt from the Water Company told me how important water monitoring is. There are volunteer monitors around the state who do water testing regularly from spring through fall.
It's a wealth of information that we gather. It really documents what's happening. It all gets graphed out and looked at year to year. We try to see if there's a trend occurring, that type of thing.
Trevor showed us the equipment monitors used to test how clear the water is.
This here, Secchi disc. This is lowered down into the water till you can't see it anymore. And what you do is you watch it go down until the black and white just about disappears. As you lean over the side of your boat, you use this. This is a water scope. And it cuts down the reflection and the wave action as you're looking down at your disc. It's lowered down on a cable, and you measure that.
Aaron helps his father do water testing on one of the local lakes where his dad is a lake warden.
I've spent a lot of time out on the lake with my dad since I was little, swimming or fishing, and lately I've started to help him out with water testing. We go around noontime once every 2 weeks, all summer. It's a good excuse for getting out on the water, and it's the best way to keep track of the quality of the lake.
The water company brings test samples of the lake water back to the lab to examine it. Trevor took us to the lab to get a closer look at the samples with a microscope. I was amazed at what he showed us there.
This is what the green stuff is. It's algae. This is a frozen sample that washed up on the shores of Chickawaukee Lake. At the water company, they call this a chicky pop.
The algae actually looks pretty, kind of like ferns, but there's just too much of it. Trevor told us that it usually takes about as long to restore a lake as it took for it to get bad in the first place. It's expensive too, and since Chickawaukee is a public drinking supply, in the long run it's going to cost us all a lot of money to fix it.
Caroline Elliott, who works for the Southern Maine Regional Planning Commission, spent some time with us talking about managing growth and development. While most of Maine is now in the middle of a development boom, York County, where Caroline lives and works, was one of the first areas where the lakes were placed at risk by rapid growth. She helps communities write comprehensive plans that lay out how a town intends to grow in the coming years. I asked her how a lake would be affected if a town didn't have a comprehensive plan.
You end up with sort of a haphazard pattern of development, which isn't always the best thing for the town or for the natural resources in the town. So the purpose of comprehensive planning is to really put a little time into thinking about where the town's going and what is special about it and what you want to protect.
Caroline stressed the importance of towns working together.
You need to try and get the towns to coordinate their activities so they have similar regulations so that you have protection throughout the watershed and not just in one piece of it.
I asked her if she had any suggestions on things people our age can do to help.
They can write their legislator and tell them that protecting water quality in Maine lakes is important to them and that they think the Maine legislature should make that a priority for the state.
Peter Lowell is another person who's working actively to protect lakes in Maine. He's been involved in the cause for 18 years, and he's the director of the Lake Environment Association that works with lakes in the western part of the state. I asked Peter if he felt enough is being done to protect lakes.
I think there is a growing awareness statewide that more needs to be done. I think unfortunately a lot of people assume that the state is doing the job adequately, and that's very far from the truth. And no matter how vigilant or effective the state is, I think it's always going to fall back on the towns to do the final job.
Peter is disappointed that high school students haven't been active in lake associations. He told me why he thinks it's important we all get involved.
What's going on now and over the next few years is going to have a very real impact on the types of lakes that people your age enjoy in the future. So that we're right now tinkering pretty heavily with your future and the type of environment that you're going to be living in.
It is so important, and it's really nice to feel that you're part of something. And that
the project was over, and we got together to compare notes on what we learned.
Speaking with Barbara Welch and Peter Lowell expanded my knowledge and my understanding.
The pig farmer that we went up to, you know, he did so much, you know, to help prevent the algae growth. He has things from lagoons to ditches to drainage ditches.
I think the individual is the one who's got to start with fixing all this. The individual as in spreading the news and educating and writing letters to their legislators, as Carolyn said. I think that's an important factor, and I think everybody should be aware and do their part.
I think if you want to get involved and interested, you have to go out and do it yourself.
And I never noticed the high concentration of algae, but seeing that chicky pop made me realize that it's like a really serious problem. And not many people know that, especially like all the people that are in the watershed. They think just because they aren't right on the lake, they don't count, but everybody is included, everybody in the watershed.
The people associated with the watershed groups are the ones that really have a high responsibility.
I know that lakes aren't to be taken for granted anymore. You know, as it's been stated, takes a little to mess it up and a lot of people to fix it.
I hope to carry through and get involved with other projects concerning other environmental issues, and I really hope that this is just a starting point for me in a career of environmental issues.
One of the most important things I learned is that as kids, we really have to like take an interest in this and really start doing stuff, because a lot of the people we talked to, they were really glad that kids were getting interested in it, because they're all older and they've already done the damage, and it's like up to us to like repair it. And so I think that's the most important thing, because it's going to be ours in the future, and we really have to make it safe, and we really have to go for the cause.